and welcome to another day of TA the Degen way. Well, it's been a little bit since we've done any updates on Bitcoin, and what I want to cover today is just my short-term bias, which is to the upside, kind of targeting that $65,000 range. I'm certainly open to much higher prices, but for now, that's kind of just what I'm looking for, and I guess we'll just have to see what unfolds. On the midterm, I'm still looking at the same thing I've been looking at. We'll flip over to our Trading View Ideas page here. I've been looking at the 50% retrace, but I also had the 1/3 retrace kind of in that 42K area, and we tapped it pretty much to the dollar. So, that may be a sufficient amount of downside. We'll just have to see. Either way, I do think that we are in the upside. And, and that's what I want to look at. Let's break down the Bitcoin price action. We can take a look at the macro price action, kind of what I'm expecting. We can look at our local price action, which I expect to be bullish. And I will talk about how I plan to trade that. Stuff I want to take a look at, and what I like to look at for my own market analysis is obviously just historic support and resistance flips. I like to look at certain percentages for retraces. There just seems to be common percentages that a push down will retrace to the upside on a log scale at least. And momentum, I put a lot of weight on momentum and the rate of change. It kind of gives me a timing mechanism as to why and when I should be trading. It is the very thing that tells me that I should be bullish for the next little bit on Bitcoin. It doesn't mean bullish for higher highs, but it means bullish for a directional move to the upside. And we'll take a look at the wave trend oscillator, which is kind of where I, get that idea from. In the price action. So let's consider the macro price action. Let's get right into our chart here. So here we're looking at our Trading View Ideas page, and there's a link for this in the description. If you like the content that we put out and the way I view the market, feel free to support us. And subscribe to the channel. There's a free Discord where I'm going to talk about my trading and answer whatever questions you might have and how I do break these down. There's a link in the description for that Discord. We'd be glad to have you. Or you can just watch this video and maybe some of my other videos, and you'll see how I just kind of view the market, which is basically I'm looking for specific periods in time for activity. I'm following the momentum, the cycle of liquidity into the market, and when I perceive on higher time frames that we are going to be looking for a directional move, then I use all of the standard just basics to gauge that price action, look for that change to actually occur, and get some upside. And, here's the FET that we're looking at from a couple days ago. And on the macro scale, Bitcoin, way back in June of 2023, I was looking for a significant high here. And on the macro scale, I'm kind of in neutral. I see no reason why we can't come down to that $32,000, $42,000 level. But that doesn't mean that we won't push up some first, and it doesn't mean that we even have to come down there. But we were looking for this significant high, the very weak 9 months in advance, which is not. You can't rely on these things to say this is what's going to happen. These are tools, forecasting tools to help you gauge where you should be looking for change. So when we got here, I was looking for change. And like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I haven't made very many because there just isn't really anything to talk about, So we were looking for a top there in this area in this time period, and we got it. And then a few months ago, as far as pullback potentials, I put this out for our Discord, and then I put this on Trading View publicly where, I'm looking for up to a 50% pullback, which brings us back to our last support resistance flip. This is kind of our range here from about 30,000 to 65, 75,000. The average size of this move, you can see it repeats, is about 55%, and that would be about the size of this move to the downside. If we consider our retrace values, this little window right here would be about 50% to 1/3 of the way. And what were we looking for? We were looking for our first support level there, around 49,000 bucks, and that's pretty much where we came. So now we're looking for a push to the upside. And if we jump right into the chart, here's our macro scale. We can see our momentum to the upside. We've lost that momentum, and we came down to our last support resistance flip right there at about 50,000 bucks at that first support line. That could be enough to keep going. So let's consider momentum. So we looked at price levels. We've got this major support resistance flip right here. Can mark that out. The method that I pretty much use for forecasting is I start with high time frames like the weekly, like what we're on now, and I will mark out significant levels using exactly what I talked about in the beginning, which is these historic support levels. We had about 30,000 there. We had another one right here at about 49,000. Let's lose a little bit of our background music here. I have some background noise, but I don't want the music too loud. So, there we go. So we have another major level. So here's historic support and resistance. Here's another historic support level right there. Here's some resistance levels. We could probably say somewhere right about 70,000. Now look at the spacing between these. Now, if we were to consider the spacing between them, they're pretty equal. Seems like an average size range. So on the macro scale, what I see is we've broken this momentum curve. We have come up massively in price, and if we look at the wave trend oscillator here, let's follow our momentum. We can see it curved to the downside. We're looking at this series of waves progressing to the downside. Look at that curvature. Then we see that curvature shift to the upside. And following that rate of change, we should be looking for a top right in about here, which is why I am open to coming back down and retesting this $32,000 to $42,000 area. It's very normal to get that 50% retrace to make this kind of 50% range. When I say retrace, I mean this push to the upside. We went all the way from 15,000 to 75,000 about, pulling back about halfway. Puts us in that $32,000 to $42,000 range. And then if we follow our momentum to the upside, here we're culminating, and then now we're on the downside. But that does not mean we've got our first wave. Here's our pullback to 49,000 coming down like this. But what comes next? One of these guys. So that's where we go down to smaller time frames and say, okay, are we getting ready to create one of these? And I have no idea what this is going to create. This could create a higher high with divergence, So I'm not saying that we can't push higher, but I'm saying on this macro scale, we're no longer in this part right here. We're no longer in this little channel here where we're pushing to the upside. Now we're in the area where we would expect to lose some steam. That doesn't mean that we can't put in a higher high. It just means we're in that time period where we lose momentum. So higher time frames, I mean, that's what I see. I see the potential for a higher high if price action shows it, but I also see the need to come back for this to rotate back down. Can you see it over here? Same thing. We rotate to the downside, we rotate to the upside, and where's our top? Right there. And where's our top in our price? Right there. We rotate to the downside, where's our bottom? Right there. But look at this, we got a one more lower low on the price, much lower, with our divergence. And then we're in this part of the liquidity cycle. Momentum is now shifting to the upside. So in this part is where I'm looking for long trades. In this part is where I'm looking for short trades. But on this first little one here, that doesn't mean we can't do the same thing we did down here and put in a higher high. We certainly can, and very well may. So that's my macro outlook, is I'm in neutral. I'm looking for a push to the upside that could potentially get cut off short and we come back down to 30,000 with no higher high, or I'm looking for a push up at least because of what's on the smaller time frames locally, which is what we're going to take a look at next. So what do we look at on the macro scale here? I mean, we've got our fib levels, we've got our historic support and resistance levels, and we're looking at our momentum in our liquidity cycle. Here's our liquidity cycle. All this liquidity comes into the market. Momentum is to the upside as it pours in. Liquidity starts to leave the market, creating downward momentum. And the rate of change in that momentum shows us about when we should be looking for a change in the price action, which is what we've got here. So for me, I'm split. It just depends on what we do in this push up, and I do think we're going to see one. And now we'll switch to our local. Let's go back to our graphic here for just a second. So in the short term, I'm saying I am bullish. I'm looking for a push up. When we look at that wave on the oscillator, while we haven't built a series of waves to the downside, we have made one first wave to the downside, and that first wave looks like it's ready to pinch off and push back up. So we looked at historic support, we looked at our fib percent retraces. We came down a third thus far, but opened to coming down 50%, kind of down to that $40,000 range. We looked at our momentum and our rate of change on that wave trend oscillator. So now we got to look locally. So for me, my present trading plan is neutral on the macro. Maybe we come up higher, maybe we don't. To me, it's all in what's going on locally and paying attention to it. Are we going to put in a higher high and get some divergence here? We could get a much higher high. Look at right here. Look at all this divergence here. From this high to this high. This is a higher high. It's not a much higher high. But, look at how much after we got this huge pullback, though. We didn't get a 50% pullback. We got a 1/3 pullback. But maybe that's enough. Look at how much we pulled back here, about a third of the way. I mean, look at the size of this range right here. So, maybe this is enough to get in that one more higher high. Maybe it's not. So locally, we got to come down. I like to go down to the 3-day. To start from the top down. We've got some macro support resistance level. We got our macro expectation, which is maybe we put in a higher high, but maybe we just come up a little bit and then we come back down to this 30,000 range and then put in a higher high. So let's zoom in a little bit and let's look at our wave trend oscillator on the smaller time frames. As we come on down, we'll go down to the 3-day. I'm just going to hit the delete button. We'll lose our price levels, but I don't think it really matters. So let's look at our 3-day, and let's look at you know, we've already got our major levels here. There's historic support resistance flip. There's support resistance. Got some more right there. So, I mean, here's our levels, you know, if we consider how far we've came down, you know, we've came down a third of the way on our fib level. We could pull that. So let's take, I mean, here was the last, you know, price pushed up, it curled over, we reaccumulated and ripped. Here's, you know, this wave's low is kind of right in that area right there. So let's grab our fib scale, we'll pull it from top to bottom. We want to know how much of this move has been given back. Well, about a third. So that's our fib level. Now let's look at our wave trend oscillator. Why am I looking for upside, at least in the short term? Look at this curving to the downside. Where would you expect this 3-day to culminate? Somewhere right in here. See these guys building themselves out to the upside. We should be looking for something right about here on our 3-day. And on our weekly, you know, that's pretty much about what we're seeing also. So let's go back to our weekly and see how that high time frame correlates to that 3-day, which is just zoomed in more. So here, you know, our waves built their way out to the upside, and you can see this, you know, but if we follow this series of waves, we would expect this to be more out here, giving us room for this push to the upside. So let's follow this right here. Let's you know, so maybe right about there she gets clipped off, and you know, we start building this weekly on out like this. So I mean, you can see on our wave trend right here that the weekly has already made a little blue wave down here. We've got one right there. We've got another one that's a little deeper. You know, then now we'll probably push to the upside. Look at here, we printed this green dot. Look at how far price came up. I mean, with just this little itty bitty wave, you know, it's just telling us that there's a change, a shift, 30%. You know, that's significant. So, I mean, you can see on the 3-day why, or on the weekly there, why, I mean, there's potential, but I mean, it's just very in the beginning. And should be cautious of looking for the potential to reject and not get a higher high, but open to it. We come down to the 3-day. We can see that we should be looking for a shift in the momentum here. We want to trade in this part of the upcycle, you know, like right here. Imagine if, you know, you only focused on long trading in this part of the price action, and you stopped focusing on long trading right about here, you know, and you just followed the price action. Let's say you took a big swing like right here, you know, so you're talking about 18,000 down to 15,000. You know, that was a pretty healthy drop. It you know, maybe you took a loss there and sold or not, but you know, when the price action's saying buy again, you take it. I mean, you're getting in this range right here, getting out in this range right here. Price comes down to the downside. This is the part where you should be looking for long trades. And if you were looking for long trades from like right here to here, and you stopped looking for long trades right at about this time period, lo and behold, you know, there's your momentum curve right there. I mean, it doesn't tell you what to do, but it tells you the environment you're in. So here we're in the environment where we should be looking for price to have bottomed or bottom very soon. Maybe we come down and do this, boom, you know. I mean, that's certainly possible too, but time-wise, we should be looking for this shift looking for long trades in the price action. Let's come down to the daily. And see how close we really are. I mean, the more we zoom in, we can look at you know, these waves, and we can see it in the price action just the same. So let's look at this here. So we've got our top right here. Here's our momentum coming to the downside. Let's just follow that rate of change. Should be looking for a high right in about there. Now let's follow these waves to the downside. This is the only thing that's mildly concerning, is, you know, maybe we don't see a higher high. Maybe this builds itself out more and allows that weekly to come down more and one more low. But regardless, we see this rotating to the upside. Look at our money flow deep in the red. It's not really curling to the upside yet. You know, it'd be nice if we had a little bit of upward projection there, which is why, I mean, I'm looking for a push-up, and I have been. If you're in our Discord, there's a link in the description. We'd be glad to have you. It's completely free. I don't sell anything. I mean, I've been looking for this upward move for, you know, about a week. You know, momentum seems to be shifting, and you can tell too, we've got this kind of megaphone. I don't get big into the patterns, but I mean, the reason that, you know, these are taught and sold is because you see these in price action, and, you know, they're indicative of kind of what's going on. But I mean, forecasting and predicting where the price is going to go is just not, I mean, that's just not really the way that it works. I mean, you can look for proportional relationships and targets, and, you know, but I mean, I'm looking for what time periods should I be looking for long trades, and what time periods should I be looking for short trades. And I perceive that we are in a period locally where we should have been and should be. I mean, at 49,000 we should have been looking for a long trade. It was the recorded first major support reversal potential level on our latest more long-term forecast. You know, looking for that $49,000 level, 49K right there. Next one, you know, 38.5. But now you can see it on the oscillator. I mean, how high should we be looking to come up? So we really need to look at this range. If we're going to reject and come down lower, now that we're zoomed in on the daily, let's super focus on this local. What can we look at here? Well, let's look at our support and resistance flips. We already know on our daily we've got our oscillator pushing up, but we're right at that kind of decision point. Should we, you know, be looking for higher highs? Yes, no? Well, let's look at and see where we should be looking for changes in the price action. So what other? Here's another major support resistance flip. Here it was support, or here it was resistance. Here it's support. You know. And we should probably take a look at volume. Let's get rid of our megaphone here. Well, we can leave it there. So let's take our fixed volume profile here, and let's just analyze this entire chunk here. So we've come back up to our value area low, and we thus far, you know, are kind of rejecting off of it. So for me, I'm looking to see, are we going to break down here and reject, and maybe we pull back, you know, and then come up? We need just a little bit more time. Maybe we crash way down, or maybe we continue up volume levels. Let's mark these out. Got about 1,130. Let's change the color on those. And all I'm really looking for is I'm looking for significant levels to look to take trades off of in the direction that I perceive liquidity is flowing in or out of the market. You know, it's like even looking at this money flow. See this coming to the downside, and you would expect this to be curving to the upside. So I mean, I'm looking for long trades. So what we need is we need significant levels, or you could call them areas of interest, to look for changes in the price action and to use, you know, for your entry levels and target prices. Really a base off what's actually happening with the price action. So here's our volume level. Or here, I put an alert there. That was a mistake. There we go. So, I mean, we could reject here. You know, we've already came up and touched it, and then we pulled back, put in a lower high, lower low. So far, this is a lower high. Could come down for a lower low, and then we just have to see from there. I'm hoping that that's not the case, and we just continue to push to the upside. One of the targets that I was giving was around 65,000. I'll get into why I'm only targeting 65,000. It doesn't even have to be the whole way. I mean, we could even look at about 64,000, just because I'm being very conservative. Because I don't want us to pull way back down here and, you know, 65,000. I mean, that's only halfway back to the POC. You know, this POC is at about 67.5, which is also one of our support and resistance flips. So I don't see no need to mark that. That's already a significant level to look for something to happen in the price action. So let's consider our value area low. We're looking for something to happen in the price action. And what are we seeing? High, low, or well, low, lower high, lower low, lower high. You know, we're downtrending technically right here. So I mean, we just have to see. We came up, we filled this gap here. This is the CME Bitcoin chart. I mean, it's pretty much the same, but we're marking these significant levels so we can look for change in those areas. I'm mostly interested in long trades, you know, so what I'm looking for is a potential rejection at this significant level, and then I would be looking for a price to pull back and rotate to the upside. So if we do reject here, I'm going to be looking at this high right here to this low, how far I want to see it pull back, you know, a good 50% of the way. I will be looking for, if we do reject here, taking a long trade in the 55 to 56,000 area. You know, 55 would be about my target price. So we marked out our significant levels. We're mostly interested in long trades, very short term at the very least. And if we, let's say we break trend here, you know, I'm not going to short this, but I'm going to be looking for price to come down into this window, and I'm going to be looking for long trades to do something like this, you know, and push higher. That, or else just a continuation of the long bias that we've been in for the last week or so. And my personal target, like I said, is in that 65,000 range. So we've marked our volume areas. We've talked about the first one. If we reject, we're looking for long trades. We want to see it pull back into that window. Now let's look for some other levels in this range. We got our volume levels, we got our support resistance levels. Now let's take this swing high to swing low. Let's look at this. So now we've also, came up to about this. Oh, we gotta flip these numbers over. So what are we looking at with this fib scale? I want to flip reverse. I want to flip the numbers so they're going the other direction. So price came from 71,190 down to about 50,000, and then now it's pushed back up this far. So how much of this push down has it given back? About 62%. you know. So these are significant levels. Now let's go all the way to our high up here at 74,150. You know, so I don't really see any other significant levels here that, I mean, we've pretty much satisfied these. I mean, you could throw on the 786 if you wanted to, which is still going to fall right in this $68,000 little window there. I'm just certainly front running that. So we got our fib levels, we've got our volume levels, we've got our support resistance levels, and what is my trading plan? Well, it is to hold long unless we actually break trend here for a move to the upside. Now let's consider the idea of our move to the upside ending somewhere up in here. You know, here's our next real significant level. Now, and then let's say that we continue on down to the 32,000. Look at this high. Look, you know, these are all lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, lower lows. You know. So let's say that we come down, well then I'll probably be looking for 65,000, you know. Let's say that we hold here, we push up, kind of reclaim this value area low, well then, you know, I'm more interested in this 67 to 68,000. So that's what I'm looking at locally. That's my personal trading plan, is looking to just continue on up as we have without even getting this pullback and getting up into this 67 to 68,000 range, and then we'll see, you know, if we are coming down to retest these weekly levels following the 50% pullback in the weekly liquidity cycle without putting in another higher high. You know, here's our, oh, I made an alert again. Here's our levels. You know, well, we could very easily, our local daily and 3-day momentum that's rotating to the upside, that could bring us right up here. And, you know, maybe we reject, come on down. The 3-day momentum culminates up towards the top and start walking your way down. You know, get some nice big relief rally, boom. I mean, who knows? I mean, it can play out anyway. Well, all I'm focusing on is this. Is I know that I should be in neutral on the weekly, open to that 32 to 42K. But I also know that I should be looking for long trades, at least on the local, which means I should have a local target, which, you know, we may pull back 50% of this push up and then push up to the 65K range, or maybe we continue up to the 67 to 68K range if you like. The way that I analyze the market, would be glad to have you. You can sure join our free Discord, and if you have any questions, I certainly don't mind answering them or sharing what I see when I'm looking at, but that's what I got for Bitcoin. So, you know, until next time, trade well.